For those that don't know, I'm Jacqueline Coley. I'm an editor at Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm really excited to moderate this conversation here for Rotten Tomatoes and NBC launch. So please allow me to welcome to the stage our panel. First, we have Sharonda Williams, founder and host of Pay or Wait. We also have Christy Puchko, film editor at Mashable, and Amanda, also known as Amanda the Jedi from YouTube. Thank y'all for being here. Well, first of all, I want to thank NBC Universal and NBCU Launch for helping sponsor and make today possible. But I'm going to start with you ladies because one of the things I think is very interesting about film criticism in this moment is I think when it was maybe 20, 50 years ago when we were hearing names like Roger Ebert or Pauline Kael, you three were maybe not the image, or what you were doing as far as being online was not the image of what people thought of film critics. They thought of newspaper folks or folks that were working for a magazine. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you approach film criticism from a digital landscape and how that is different than the more traditional publications. And Sharonda, I'll start with you.
I think for me, one of the reasons why I even got into film criticism, because I didn't see people who actually looked like me or actually offered a different perspective on criticism. I think we see that it was the same type of person, typically male, typically white male, and I wanted to just add a little pizzazz to it. And I think to also make film criticism fun. Like, you can be kooky, you can make jokes, and you can still be critical about something. But yeah, I think for me, and I think it was really important to have my own outlet, to not be put into a box, to have that freedom to be able to say what I wanted to say, to cover what I wanted to cover. I think it was just really important for me to still be able to be me, this crazy girl with the nails, saying crazy things that I don't even know what I'm gonna say half the time. But I think the biggest part of it was still maintaining my personality, but also offering a diverse point of view.
I definitely dig that. And if you haven't checked out Sharonda's YouTube page, you absolutely should. It's hilarious. Christy, for you, you are at a more traditional publication, but you're not in the sense that it is a tech company that then you filter entertainment through that lens. So talk about how you do that. Whereas in, obviously, entertainment has technology involved in it, but it is not the same as 90% of the things that are on the pages of Mashable. So how do you present entertainment through that lens?
It's a challenge. Yeah, Mashable, like, we're known a lot for tech, but also digital culture. So typically when I'm looking at a movie, I'm trying to figure out, like, how does that speak to our audience? And maybe that's not always tech. Maybe that's genre. We love horror at my site, so that's always a good in for us. We also like specific kinds of storytelling that we can really sink our teeth into. And you know, it's finding those kind of I will say headlines are a big help, because it's kind of trying to communicate to the audience, especially when there are a million options here at the festival. There are a million options. So having a smart headline that kind of grabs attention while still being true to what you're saying and not just a clickbait title that's like luring people in, I think is really important to kind of make our voices heard in a space that is very crowded.
For Amanda, for you, I think like with Sharonda, I mean, really anybody that chooses to be a writer in entertainment, your voice and how you approach entertainment is so key to, I think, having an online community like yours. I mean, you'll take a big film and dissect something so small in it to an almost, I think, insane degree, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it in like the best way possible. Like
You can mean it any way you want.
yeah, like some of your deep dives are so hyper specific. How do you do that, I guess is the best way I would say that, or how did you decide that that's the way that you wanted to present your take on entertainment?
It's a combination. I feel like originally I didn't go that hard, but then you'd always get someone being like, your deduction is wrong here because of this. And I'd be like, no, because this happened. So now I'm like, I'm going to say everything. I'm going to say every little thing. I'm going to get right down into it. And then you can't argue with me. Obviously, some things I go a little bit deeper on than others. It's just a matter of like how deep I think the movie is trying to be, or how much I think people are going to misinterpret something based on like what the public consensus already is. But you know, I'm just trying to be a little bit informational. And if I can't be informative, I'm just trying to have fun with people, you know.
I've always said that there's two types of directors, and this is not a good knock or a bad knock. There's directors where they feel that the audience is in front of their vision, and there's directors where their vision is in front of their audience. And I think the thing could be said the same for you three or anybody working online, because the audience is there, right there in the comments, letting you know exactly how they feel. So I'd be curious if you had to sort of put yourself in the one or two of those lines, where do you all place yourself in that sort of distinction? Because audiences are such a huge part of how you exist online, and more importantly, how you continue to exist online. I'll start with you, Sharonda.
I think for me, both. I think it changes, right? I think from a YouTube channel perspective, when you first start your channel, you very much have what your point of view is and what you want to do or how you want to present yourself. Typically, it's filling a void that you've seen people not doing something that you want them to do. And I think once you actually build that audience, then you try to, I feel like there's like this back and forth of you want to make sure that you're engaging your audience. You want to make sure that they keep coming back. So I think for me, I started out having my own vision, and then it went to, at times I wanted to satisfy my audience. And recently for me, I had to take a break from actually doing film criticism to really try to look back and see, like, who do I want to be in this space? What is my end goal? Like, how do I want to change this space? How do I want to make it a better space for more movies to have eyes on them? So now I'm back to the point where I have my own vision, and I hope that my audience just really openly receives that.
Christy, what about you? It's a little bit different, but it's still paramount.
Well, I was a freelancer for like 13 years before I started at Mashable. So like a big part of it was understanding the audience for whoever I was writing for. And it's not that I changed my opinion of anything, but I tried to consider, who am I talking to? Because obviously the audience for, Vanity Fair is very different than the audience of like comic book resources and like everywhere in between. And so I maintain that, where I'm not writing to appease an audience, but I feel like where I'm happiest as a film critic is when I am inviting people into the conversation. Like when I am talking to people about the tone we try to strike at Mashable within our entertainment coverage, it's very much like when you go out to coffee with someone who is very cool and knows a little more about something than you do, and they're like, let me tell you about it. Like that conspiratorial, because I love that personally. I have friends this year that have I went to an ECW show because a friend of mine's super into wrestling. It was a time. It was amazing. And I want that to be the conversation we're having, where you don't feel intimidated that maybe I know more than you about movies. You feel like I'm come and join me. Get it. The water's fine. Let's go.
I love how you lit up on wrestling, because I'm not so terminally online that I've seen all of your videos, but I've seen enough of them to know you put wrestling in your videos a lot, Amanda. It's absolutely kind of hilarious. But for you, again, same thing. I mean, you have an online community that in some ways is paying your bills, so how do you strike that balance?
It's a combination, and it can be a balance. Sometimes you almost realize that you start shadow boxing people that aren't necessarily your audience. You're like, I need to address every little thing that this person I don't know is going to try saying, and then you actually lose sight of the people that are just there to enjoy what you're doing, who understand what you mean, so you don't need to go over the top. But obviously I want to put out things that people are going to enjoy and have fun with, but I also like being able to just kind of highlight some smaller things or put eyes on things that they might not have heard of. So even if I am going for a bigger, maybe hot button topic just to put my mark on it, I'll try to mention maybe some smaller things in there too, so people can maybe be steered in a different way. But yeah, it is always just kind of a battle of trying to stay authentic to what you actually enjoy doing, and that doesn't mean only talking about things I genuinely enjoy. Sometimes my favorite videos are the ones that I can just have fun. I don't think in a super mean-spirited way, but there's just some movies I'm you're being a little bit goofy, and I'm gonna build on that goofiness with you, and we're gonna have a good time, and people are gonna come out the other side happy. So it is just kind of not getting too lost and just trying to make sure you're maintaining those numbers and constantly just appeasing people that are the most vocal, because there's so many other people that are just happy to have whatever you're happy about out there and just want to see what that is.
Another thing I think is interesting with online film criticism and just film criticism in general, people are oh, you get to talk to movie stars, you get to see all the movies before everyone else gets to see them. But there's an aspect to the job that people don't know. And I think because people understand what a YouTuber is now or what an online digital creator is, so I think they know some of the pitfalls, but there's aspects of the grind. And I'll give you an example. if you do, like for me, the grind is like, okay, if I do a 4-minute press hit, they don't realize that there's like 50 emails and about 80 phone calls to stand on, someplace and talk about a movie for 4 minutes. Like that's like something that doesn't really get talked about. What are those aspects of your job that you wish people knew more about that is not necessarily even a bad thing? It's just, this is the grind of this that you don't necessarily understand until you live it. Amanda, I'll start with you.
I'd say there's a few different things. Editing can take a really long time. I don't know if people always realize that. So one of the things I did this year, just because I was really burning myself out, constantly trying to like get things out at a regular pace and make some things that are longer. I've hired some editors to work with, so it's like a little sandwich. I do the first part, they come in and add all the nice things, and then I just fix it up at the end. It's beautiful. But for example, I waited outside for 5 hours yesterday to see Another Simple Favor. So like, just because I was emailing the wrong person. But sometimes you just can't get access to something unless you're willing to like wait for it, which I know a lot of people here obviously were waiting for movies that they're passionate about seeing. So that's another thing. And then again, you just kind of have to be really careful about what you're saying too, because you can be like, oh no, I worded that wrong, need to reword it, and then somebody will find the thing that you didn't think there was anything wrong with and jump on that and be like, oh, I can't believe I missed that, and like one just misconstrued comment. Not that it happens a lot. That's like what people say when they're like, I'm actually really bad and I'm saying something wrong, but you can just make an accidental little mistake without even really realizing it, or like hurting someone without realizing it. So it is kind of like a lot of power and pressure in certain ways, just to make sure that you're kind of expressing yourself as intended and not like causing unnecessary harm.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Unnecessary harm. Yeah. Not intentional, but unnecessary.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
very fair.
Yeah.
Christy?
Yeah, I think I'm relating back to what you were saying. I think junkets and interviews take, sometimes we get 4 minutes with talent, and that 4 minutes, you saw the movie, it was 2 hours, you thought about how you wanted to prepare it, maybe you did additional research, maybe you watched a sequel or other movies that were made by that director. So like hours go into, and 4 minutes go. No one understands or knows that, and like it's still a very cool job. But it's funny because we basically, I would say, my experience as a film critic is it's 90% me being a goblin in in dark spaces, going yes,
Like reading books,
Yeah.
reading books sometimes.
right, and then I have to like be nice and be like, so John Malkovich, and like it takes a lot out of you to kind of make that preparation and then be able to be a person. So like there's it is very glamorous, it's very cool, we have a very cool job, but the not glamorous part is literally me just scrolling through things and being like, right, and I'm gonna rewatch this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna look over my like chicken scratch notes, and and like at Mashable, like we have a team, like my video editors are amazing, but it's also that where it's like I'm really grateful to have someone who can watch my video stuff and go like we have a conversation about like this worked, that didn't work, whatever, and it makes everything better. Like it's really amazing to have a team, and a lot of people don't have that ability for all kinds of reasons. So like that's something I'm also just really grateful for, because like it is a grind, but when you have a team on it, it's so exciting, because when you win, you all win.
What about you, Sharonda? What's the grind that you wish more people knew about online film criticism?
I mean, first and foremost, thank you for mentioning standing in line. I think a lot of times people see the end goal, like, oh, you're talking to these celebrities, but they don't, me leaving work early to go stand in line for 3 hours for an early movie screening just to, do a review, or even having to put makeup on. I really wish people understood, like, having to groom yourself to go do a video. But I think the biggest thing for me is time, especially when, like, I'm a team of one. So if I have to travel to go do an interview, especially if I'm traveling, I'm doing maybe 3 or 4 projects at one time, like I have to have time first to go do that, travel, then come home, edit, post, make social clips. I think that a lot of times I just wish I was Dr. Manhattan, minus all of the controversy with him, but I can make multiple versions of myself just so I could accomplish so much more. And I think also too, specifically with interviews, just realizing people are human. I think people forget that. You post your video and you're like, why didn't you ask that question? Like, I wanted to ask that question, but I also wanted to be invited back. So I think we miss that people are human. This is a job.
Well, especially if you have like 3 minutes, you're not going to ask the hard question off the bat. Like, hello, it's nice to meet you. And I just wanted to ask you, like, that's.
No, you have to unsettle them.
Yeah, like that's
Unsettle them.
right. Make them very uncomfortable. That's my advice. No, but like,
Then they'll answer anything.
Yeah, but that's a very important part of interviewing that I think people miss. Like, yes, you want to ask those questions, but you also have to make your person comfortable to want to answer the questions, to
feel
give
safe.
yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think people, I want to say, it's like, okay, think about the most uncomfortable thing you've dealt with in the past 6 months. And imagine if you just met someone and that was the first thing they asked you. Would you like that person? Doesn't mean that you wouldn't get the answer, but like, there's a longer scale to this, right?
And like from our perspective, sometimes you get thrown something at the last minute. I'm not going to say what movie or who it was on, but I was walking to a room where it was a several person interview at the same time, where I was talking to several people. And as I walked in, the PR person goes, "Don't mention rehab." I didn't know someone had been in rehab. And so I went in and I'm like sitting there and I'm asking all my questions, none of which are about rehab. But in the back of my head, I'm like, who is in rehab?
By the way, y'all should watch The Studio because that feels like ripped off of the
The
pages
studio
of
is just,
that.
it's a documentary. Watch
It
out for
is,
that.
Yeah. Christy, I'm gonna bring this to you because you've worked for traditional publication, very glossy magazines, papers of records in major cities, so on and so forth. But you've also worked in the digital landscape. So I'd love for you to be able to contrast between the advantages of being in a more digital fluid space versus being at the more traditional publications.
I think in the digital space, there's a much greater awareness of diversity in language and like inclusion in general. But like, there are like jokes I will make or references I will make as a queer woman in pieces that will get cut from certain outlets, and that other outlets are like, fire, go. Like, and so it's interesting to kind of see those spaces. And like, that's part of why I like the digital culture thing, because for like huge papers and huge outlets, it's very exciting to be a part of them, but also you understand that you are talking to a massive audience, so maybe that joke isn't gonna read to them, so it's gonna get cut. It's not necessarily censorship, they're just like, our audience isn't gonna get that out of here. But like smaller ones, you know, which I'm sure these two can speak more to, when you are speaking to a smaller audience on purpose, you can be more specific in a way that I find really satisfying. So like that's I feel like where digital space thrives, is that we don't need to be talking to everybody. We can kind of find our people who get it and be like, let's all have this conversation together.
One of the things I think is interesting is as the people who talk about the thing, and I mean this in sports, in politics, and entertainment, become stars in their own right, there is, I think, sort of an interesting situation where now there's a bit of a balance shift. And because of it, I think you have to sort of compete against a much bigger landscape. There's more people wanting to talk about the movies than make the movies these days, because the barrier for entry is lower and the chance for success is sometimes just as high. And again, that shifted when the people talking about stuff became as famous, if not bigger, as the people making it. That's why, you know, there's a reason why like Glenn Powell goes on some dude's podcast, and that was just some dude that decided to run his mouth on the internet. Like, think about that balance and shift. This dude is promoting his movie, but he realizes that that venue is the best place for him to promote it. So with that being said, how do you break through that oversaturation while still staying authentic to what you want to do? Because from when even you, definitely when you started, but from when you started and definitely from when you started, it's been a huge shift. There's hundreds more people, outlets, platforms than there were, you know, even 5 years ago, let alone 10. So how do you break through the noise? Christy, or Amanda, I'll start with you.
I think sometimes it's not always being so focused on wanting to break through it. I think you can get really caught up on numbers and comparing yourself to other people, and that's usually where you'll notice people kind of start to fail. And sometimes they'll do really well when they're doing that, but you notice that like the content gets a little bit less authentic, or just maybe feels a little bit more rushed in places, and that's going to happen no matter what. Like, people have deadlines, and it can be unfortunate, but I just think that as long as you're just kind of comparing yourself to yourself at the end of the day, and just kind of being like, you know, look back at your last little body of work and being like, am I happy with like the last 10 videos that I've done, or something like that? And if not, just like figure out what's not working, what you'd be happier doing, make a shift. You know, I try to jump around the topics that I cover, and it can be like a give and take. It's kind of knowing what your audience likes and what they don't like. So my audience is like pretty open to like a lot of horror, so I keep an eye out for those and the ones that interest me, and I like them too, so that works. But then, and then finding ways to make it a little bit more interesting. So there's like 1,000 Nosferatu videos out there. So I tried to kind of do a little bit of like, oh, this is how it differs from Dracula, which is technically based on it. This is what I mean by it was based on it, and just like random little things like that. But it can be hard, and some of it is luck. Like there's no way around it. You kind of get something that pops off, and then it's just a matter of like riding that luck and just staying consistent with the work so that people know that they can like expect something from you like every week or every 2 weeks, and just like not changing too much to try to always find trends, but just being like open to like, oh, this is kind of doing big right now, and I think that my audience would enjoy it. I'll jump on that instead of this, and then I can always do the other one after if you want. So that's another thing that takes a lot of time, is like figuring out, like making the decision of what the next thing you want to do is like so hard actually. But yeah, it's just, not losing sight of yourself is probably one of the biggest things that at least lets your audience know that you're kind of staying like true to yourself, and they appreciate that, I think.
I mean, Christy, I'm sure that the people that are the higher ups in your company, they want you to break through on everything. So this is not the same game.
There's a lot of corporate talk that I'm not gonna bring here, but it's it's challenging. Like being a freelancer, I have very strong feelings about what that life was like, and there are challenges in the corporate thing too. I know it seems so cushy, and I'm not gonna lie, it is nice that I know every day I have a job. That's great, love that for me. But like, yeah, it is challenging, and like I manage a team, so it's not just figuring out like what am I gonna do, but like what is my team gonna do? What are our skill sets? Like what are areas where I don't have somebody to cover it, so we need to figure out a freelancer, and it's really challenging. Like it's challenging to kind of wear all those hats and figure out all those things, and still find the time to basically make space to write a review or to do a video where I am being vulnerable because I'm connecting to art in a way that has to be authentic. Because I agree with you. I think if at any point you're moving away from what you're authentic to, I just think it's gonna flop. I think that it's like it might hit or whatever, but I think that what leads me ultimately is like, what do I feel good about doing? What do I feel like I need to be doing? Because all the other stuff, you can't guess what's going to hit. You can be strategic as you want and be like, this is a big movie, this is a big star, this is probably going to do great. But they may not give you anything interesting or whatever. That's beyond your control. What you can control, I'm very, very mental health moment. Control what you can control. And for me, it's like, I figured out, and I hate, the term branding gets used a lot, but it's like, it's about being authentic to yourself. Like, what are you good at? What do you care about? Because those are the things that are going to make those days where the grind is really grinding make sense. So I think that that's kind of, and it's what I try to do with my writers too, where it's like, what are you passionate about? Let's follow that. Because in my mind, you can always read a piece and tell if someone is genuinely, like they know their stuff, or if they have just been intensely on like the wiki.
Sharon, I'm going to change this one for you because I feel like you have a very thriving audience and they're very loyal to you in everything that you do. But then you will do something that is completely unintentional that then becomes viral. I'm sorry, I got to bring it up. I got to bring it up for folks that don't know. Sharon just walked out of a room and became an instant meme. And I know it's but that's the difference. You could spend hours on a video that you spent months and like, but you walking in front of Michael B. Jordan and now you're forever famous. So how do you deal with that balance of like, sorry, girly?
Can I just say, because I gotta get this off my chest, y'all. I put so much time and effort into those questions. I just want y'all to know I fought really hard for that interview. I was actually denied access to that interview, and I had to put my black mama hat on and be like, let me tell you, I'm finna do this interview, okay? And I put so much effort, like trying to be like—
It was a great interview, it was.
Like, come
it was
on,
such
y'all.
A good interview.
I was asking anime questions, tying it into directing, and then the last couple of seconds. And you know what's so funny about that? It sparked so much debate. Like, there were publicists having conversations, like, did she leave it in on purpose? Did she do it on purpose to, like, go viral? I mean, my family, my brother is a superintendent. He's in meetings, and they're seriously saying, like, hey, did y'all see that girl? He's like, hey, man, that's my little sister, okay? I'm someone's little sister, all right? But, I mean, it's those moments, like, I went to go play Top Golf, and somehow that became a thing, like— now I'm friends with Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson and Anthony Mackie. That wasn't there. But I think that anything that you put out there can be dissected. It can be used in any way possible. And I think that's what's hard is you put time and effort into an interview, And instead of like, oh, look at these thoughtful questions this person asked, it's like, no, let's look at men being men instead. Like, I mean, it's good, it's bad, and I think it's also too. There's this whole thing of people want to go viral, but does going viral, does that equate to access? Because it doesn't. I thought my whole life was going to change. I thought I was going to have to stop fighting to get access to interviews, but it's still the same thing over and over again. So I think it's just really about being wise about what you put out on social. But I think also, too, you just never know. Like, something so innocent, like, and it was really laziness from editing. I was like, honey, let me just put this out here because I got other stuff to do. I'm not even finna worry about it. And then it became a thing. So I think it's good, it's bad, and then you want to make sure you're going viral for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. So it's just an interesting space right now because other people can also take your work and make it into something that you totally didn't intend for it to be.
And I was actually going to bring that to you too, Amanda, because you've been in similar moments of that too, where it's like, I don't know, it's like, but not in a bad way, also in a good way, where people have like, you know, you've put so much out there. And I think that's maybe one of the challenges that people don't talk is like, you have a digital footprint that is now almost a decade deep, you know what I mean? So they can make a story with just you in your face. How do you sort of balance that? And is that one of the barriers that you still think about? Or do you just say at this point, it's in the ether and I have to deal with it?
It's a combination. I try to ignore anything that's like, I don't want to say complete, like, because sometimes there's criticism that's genuine and you want to take that. But then there's other people that just don't like you. And that's okay. But then sometimes people feel like they need to find reasons to justify not liking you. So they can just start finding little things and they'll make up things and they can, you know, I feel like I'm pretty fortunate. I don't get too much of that. Like, if you're online, if you're on YouTube, somebody's going to be like, oh, I saw one of those people's video. I hate them. They suck. So like you get mentioned somewhere on Reddit and they're like, she sucks. And it's like, that's cool. That's fine.
Be like, but you
I
know
think
my
I suck the most, so you can't hurt me.
No, I would be like, but you know my name.
But you know, no,
real.
I go the opposite direction. It's I suck, you can't hurt me. You know, yeah. So sometimes that's a lot of it is just kind of like, I don't. Some people can't self-deprecate because that like actually starts. It's like the Office clip where he's like too far. But some people, it's like no. It's like good to just kind of keep that in check. So like no matter what somebody starts coming at you with, you're just kind of like that's fair. I'm just gonna keep doing this over here because I'm not gonna lie, there are days, even if like, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this video and I'm like really happy with it, but the anxiety of putting it out today and then realizing I'm like, I don't wanna spend the next couple hours looking at the comments to make sure I didn't mess something up or that like I've said something stupid or just like something went wrong and then I have to deal with that. It can cause like a lot of anxiety and some days it's fine, some days it's terrible and you just kind of have to take it as it is and realize that, you know, it's kind of scary because I'm like, you know, if it goes really bad, it can ruin your life. It can ruin your career. But for the most part, that's like not as likely to happen. And you just kind of have to like breathe through it, you know, internalize both like the genuine criticism and maybe learn from that, but then also make sure to pay attention to like the compliments because I think one of the things in the online space that people are bad for is that there'll be like 100 positive comments that they're just like, oh, that's nice. And it's one person being like, you were so wrong about that. And that's the thing you're gonna be like, I can't believe this person said that. I'm gonna put it everywhere and it's gonna be the worst thing. It's gonna ruin my entire day. And you can't do that. You're just gonna let that person be an idiot and you can go live your life.
That's easier said than done.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
I struggle. And one of the things that I've had to realize that, especially when you're on social media providing criticism, people see you as their form of entertainment.
Yes.
Like I had someone email me, and I love y'all to death, okay? But they emailed me like, "Hey, you skipped this episode of this show a year ago, and I commented that I wanted you to do it, but I actually like still want you to do it even though it's a year later." Like they feel like because you put stuff on social media that they are entitled, you know, to your opinion, or that like, "Hey, girl, you missed this episode of The White Lotus. Like, when am I going to get my episode?" And I think that's hard. It gives you anxiety too, because it's just like,
yeah, you're like, oh, there's so much I want to do and so much I want to give people, but I'm like one person and I can only do so much, and you just get so stressed being pulled in a different direction, and then suddenly you didn't do anything, and it's been like a week, and you're like, well, I could have at least done one of these things in that time.
Yeah, I will say that also happens to me with like PR, where they'll be like, we have this film and it's super teeny and we really would love your attention. And you're like, cool. And you want to be that hero for that film, but that's one of 30 emails that you got about that same kind of thing, and it's like it breaks your heart, because like the reason I think a lot of us get into this is because you want to be that champion for like, oh, this teeny little movie that you've never heard of, it's magic, please find this movie. And like, and sometimes you get lucky enough that a filmmaker says like, your review is why we got bought. We got distribution because your review. And like, there's like nothing cooler than that. That's so exciting, because it's just you sharing what you love and like somebody else getting to like share it more because of you. But then like the flip side of that is that like there's just a lot of stuff you don't have time for, you don't have the bandwidth for, and it can be really hard, because like, yeah, I like what you said, because it's like truly that thing of you like, oh, you think you can say something to me I haven't said to myself? And it's really, it's like, it's dark. And the emails though I do think hit different. I won't say who, but I got an email from a celebrity that was so sharp I thought it was a joke. Yeah.
No, this is one thing I will say is a little bit different. If you grew up with a bully as a mother, dude, y'all cannot hurt me. And I say that in like a good way, but she definitely like made me be like, no, I've hurt you first. This is a real truth. Sorry, we're getting deep on this one. With all of that, look, being online is a scary place, but there's a lot what Christy talked about, and there are huge wins, and there's things that you guys have that is so unique, because even for me, I've told Sharonda about something that she said in a video that had me dying, to where I went back, played it again, played it for other people at the table, and like made them laugh about it. And I just told Christy, I read her, like, so you have those moments. I'd love for you all to talk about some of those. You can only get this by being an online creator, where you know the response you're getting to your work is unique to you being able to do what you do. And Amanda, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think there's just certain things, like you cover certain movies and you can make a little joke that was just kind of a flyby thing, and then suddenly somebody's like clipping that out and putting it on Twitter, or they're making a GIF out of it, or they're like, you know, a big thing for me is I'm very emotive in my videos, so I'll just pause the screen and then suddenly it's like, I pause the video, and you're like, you know, something like that. So it's just kind of like, you know, the beauty is that you can have so much of your personality out there when it's just you. So you can just really do whatever you want, and that, again, the authenticity there makes room for a lot of people just to be really passionate about it and have fun with it. So I wear a lot of silly shirts, and people get really into that. And like in the winter, I'm always wearing like a toque. So people, if I'm not wearing one, they're like, that's so weird. Why aren't you wearing that right now? Like some people are probably like, why aren't you wearing that right now?
It's not cold down here.
It's not cold down here. But yeah, no, it's just, it's so interesting. And like YouTube does a really cool thing. It shows you like view spikes in videos. So you can see where somebody was like continuously like going back and replaying something. And it is you just being like something stupid, like putting in like a rave joke in like a Nosferatu video or something, you know, and like,
or it's a wrestling joke.
Or, you know, it's just like fun
Star
things.
Wars
like,
movie. Sorry,
yeah.
I remember this one.
No, it's good. That's what I mean. Like you can get away with so much and just really kind of see what works, and you know, and you be like, I really like that, and then notice other people did too. It's like very rewarding, and like there's no editor to be like, you can't do that, and that's really nice.
One last question: do you have a favorite? What's your favorite GIF, rip, random thing that you've seen proliferate the internet?
I don't even know if I remember right now. But
it's okay, I'll come back.
It's just something I know I'm looking like really horrified at something, and then it's just like I say a word and it's like, oh, you can apply that to everything, and I can't remember what it is.
All right, Christy, you've already talked a little bit about
Yeah.
like but is there another one? Do you have like one where you're like, yeah, this person slid into my DMs and I didn't want to tell them?
No, you know what that. I don't want to say who, because that feels so braggy.
Just say who.
Okay. There was one time I wrote a review, and I wrote it really quickly. It was like this little movie on Netflix that I just thought was really funny, and I took a real like sideways turn at it, because it was definitely a movie that was not made for me. It was a kid's movie, but I thought it was really funny. So I took this weird angle at it, and I logged on to Twitter, and a director that I love was in my DMs being like, I'm glad you liked it. And I was like so excited, and then I went on to Instagram, and the star of the movie was in my DMs on Instagram, and the director told me that they had texted each other the review, and then wanted to see who I'd reach out to first. Which was a real chaos moment, but it was like, that was very exciting, because it was just like, as I said, truly 90% of the time I am a goblin in front of my computer just being like, and it's like terrible posture, 3 drinks at the side, that's like, you know, it's a mess. But then like when that happens, you're like, can they see me? And it's a mixed feeling, but like it's exciting whenever, or when you get an email and the director's like, you really understood this. And it's not always a positive review. Like I've written Pans, and the director sends me and goes like, they took the edit away from me and you totally figured that out. I'm like, it's like, that's very exciting.
No, when you can tell the tea with your suppositions, I do love that. Before I go to you, Sharonda, I just want to remind everyone, it's not just my questions today. If you go to the back right there, if you would like to ask any questions to our incredible panel, please do sign up back there. We're going to go to the Q&A right after I get done with Sharonda. Sharonda, what's been your favorite thing that's come back to you that you've put out into the world that you never expected would be a thing but became a thing?
I don't know, cause I say so many random crazy things.
Girl.
I don't know. I think I have like favorite moments, like with my audience, that kind of like takes you back, especially like those early wins. Like, I forgot when I was doing videos, I used to have to bang on the ceiling with a broom, like in the middle of like doing a live. Like you just see me banging on the ceiling with a broom, stuff like that. Or like when people reach out, like I did I did a Euphoria review during the pandemic, and I know I said something really crazy, so I get really high anxiety if someone says like, "Hey, I watched your review," because I'm like, "What did I say?" Because I know I said something out of
100%. I'm like, oh God, I have.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But I do remember I did this review, and I had got this like DM. I like just tweeted my thoughts about it because it kind of connected to me. It was the episode when Rue is talking about like how she lost her dad, because I lost my dad at a young age, and it did really impact like who I was as a person. And then I got this DM, and it was like, oh, like Zendaya sent you a message. I'm like, y'all stop playing on my phone. I'm trying to do this Bath and Body Works candle sale right now. But then I realized like it was actually her, because someone was like, Beach, do you know this girl just posted you on her stories? And so it's like those moments where you have talent tell you like, hey, like I really I watched your review, and thank you for even sharing your experience with your father, because this is why they do this. And I think it's those moments of people just showcasing that, hey, like you exist, and what you say does matter, even though you think it doesn't matter. Yeah, so like I think that was a really good feel good moment for me, like high anxiety, because I know I said something really crazy in that video, but like oh my goodness, like people actually watch and do care. So yeah.
I told Robert Eggers that the song from Sabrina Carpenter, Espresso, like I'm keeping him up all night with that me espresso, was the only thing I thought when I left that movie, and he laughed, and I'll live for that forever, because now forever in my mind it's like Lily Rose Depp is basically Sabrina Carpenter being like, yeah, I'm gonna keep you up all night
Yes.
with that me espresso. He giggled like none other. I loved it. It was favorite moment.
That is a big one where you could make them laugh. And you're
I
like,
mean,
Yeah, you're like,
with
yeah.
some randomness too.
yeah.
Like,
oh no, I treasure those. On the
Yeah.
bad days, I'm like, whatever. I made so and so laugh. You don't know.
Yeah, and I know it was a letterbox thing, but I told Ed Berger that Conclave was RuPaul's Drag Race before it was a thing, because I saw that movie 6 months before, and that was the first thing that was in my notes. All right, let's go back to the questions.
He, him. I'm an actor and voiceover artist because I failed as a movie reviewer. I spent 4 years reviewing everything I could get my hands on. I wrote about 1,000 movie reviews, published them online, got in a couple newspapers, but it didn't take hold. And my acting career did start to, so I went with what worked. But I'd still like to review movies from time to time. What is your advice for anybody like me who would either like to try it or has tried it and just is spinning their wheels?
I guess my question would be, do you want to do it professionally, or do you want to do it because it's something you love?
I was trying to do it professionally. I was in a couple newspapers, and I had a website and a Facebook page for it and everything.
I will say, to be totally honest, it is a very hard job to get into at any time, but I think especially now we're seeing a lot of kind of economic fluctuation happen. But I mean, like, I think a lot of us, like, I've been doing this for 16, 17, I'm not great at math. A while. We'll say a while.
Get it, girl.
Yeah. And like, honestly, it started off, I started when I was underemployed, and I started doing it because I wanted something else when my jobs weren't clicking. And eventually, it's just, you have to keep plugging away at it. You have to kind of find out what your audience is through like who you are, and like find if you can make that work. And it's a lot of rejection. You're a voice talent actor, so I'm sure you've also dealt with that. You have a great voice. I can't see you.
Yeah.
But you have a great voice. You're like, I'm a voice talent actor. It's like, obviously. But like, yeah, I think it is persistence, and it is difficult. But like, the nice thing about how democratic the platform has become is it doesn't take anything to like start a TikTok, to start an account where you're just going to start sharing your content. The harder part is figuring out what is it that sets you apart and narrowing in on that? And again, I think it's like based in authenticity. And you have a great voice. So I think that's a cool starting place, frankly.
Yeah, it took years for anything I did to kind of like pick up steam, especially in terms of like reviewing movies. So I think it really does have to be something you're willing to do for like actually you're losing money doing it because you're trying to get different like cameras and better microphones so that the content actually like looks and sounds okay. So it does really just become like a passion project that if you're like fortunate enough can turn into an actual career. So yeah, if it's something you want to do because you genuinely enjoy it and do have an interest in turning it into a career, it does unfortunately take a lot of like doing it around. Like I was working 2 other jobs at the time when I really started like building my channel, and then got fortunate enough to like not have to work those other jobs. But it's a lot of grinding and getting stuff out there and being like, especially early on, you want to be one of the earliest people getting thoughts out there on movies, because when they watch something, they're just going to go to whoever the first one they find on YouTube is. So yeah, it's a lot of work, and it can be really tough. And there is a bit of luck in terms of like what's going to hit the algorithm and stuff. But yeah, it can take a very long time, unfortunately. But yeah, as Christy said, you have a great voice, and you clearly do the struggle of doing the voice acting. That's one of the hardest things to get into. So yeah, take that win and hold that high and use that to push yourself forward.
Or use that to interest it. Be like, because some people would want to be
Yeah.
like, hey, this is a voice actor's opinion of this voice performance.
Yeah, voice actor's opinion on this anime, or like the dub of the anime or something
Or
like
even
that.
just embrace the different voices you can do over the context of a video. Like, yeah, not to make it gimmicky, but like part of the feedback I get on the videos I do for Mashable is truly that people laugh at the fact that I keep changing the way I talk, and it's just how I talk. It's like if I'm talking about someone, I will tend to mimic them and whatever. And it's like something I used to be embarrassed about, but people think it's funny. So like, it's that actor. I'm sure you're familiar. That actor thing of like learn to love the ugly truth of yourself. Like figure out what that is and embrace it.
Love that.
Thank you all very much.
Next question.
Hi, Emily Miller. I'm a documentary filmmaker, formerly of CNN, now independent. I'm wondering if you've ever had the village moment where you've been invited on set, much like the studio if you went to the premiere last night. Have you been invited on set to a film and then have they asked you to build the audience because of your access in that moment?
I mean, I've done set visits back in the day. I haven't done them in a while, but that's like it's a different vibe. It's you're with like a small army of people, and you're all getting the same answers to the same questions, and it's weirdly competitive because some people act like you're not in a team.
Girl.
And you're like, we're all getting the same quotes. You don't need to be weird and secretive about this. But like, it's an interesting thing because there's like, you get to see the kind of behind the scenes on it. And sometimes that means I won't review the movie because I feel like I've had a weird access to it that like I can't really be fair to the film. And other times it's funny because like I did like the set visit for Spider-Man Homecoming, and I did not know the twist of that movie even after doing the set visit. So I was in the theater and they like do the reveal and I was like, which I reviewed that. I was like, all right, well done. I was on set for a whole day and I had no idea. So yeah, I've done that. It's fun. I think it's helpful. I mean, I used to work in post-production. I used to work in production. And I think it's helpful also just from a film critic to get to see that side of it and understand some of the trials that they're putting up with.
Do we have time for one more?
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a student journalist, and I'm interested in pursuing a career in entertainment criticism. And I've been put in the position a lot of writing a review or a criticism of something I'm a fan of, like a band that I like. Do you have any advice for kind of remaining objective when you're reviewing something that you are a fan of?
I don't think you have to be completely objective. I think that's the kind of beauty. It's just always a matter of like meeting something where it is and being honest about your biases. So like when you're starting the review, you can just flat out say, I am a huge fan of this band. So like, take that into consideration. But it would actually be worse if you tried to pretend you weren't a fan and then people found out you were, because then that would seem inauthentic. Like you were trying to like backdoor your way into being like, oh, I never heard of these people before and they're so good. But I think a lot of people want to hear authentic opinions from people who are fans of movies, and it can actually add to the criticism overall, I find.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sharonda, I would want to hear you from this because you've built relationships with some of these filmmakers, and then you have to, that last one wasn't as good, and you got to say what you got to say.
Yeah, I think whether it's positive or negative, I see people get into this issue when they have negative opinions. I think a lot of things that are missing, like people share their opinion about something, but they don't actually like build you to like why. Like that's why I always have like, this is what I liked, this is what I didn't like. You have to have points to support like basically, if you have your thesis statement, you have to have points that support why you like something, why you don't like something. And I feel like that's the biggest part. A lot of people are ranting or saying like, I love this, I love that, or I hated this, but why? It's the why behind it, and actually being able to support that statement from the beginning.
I do want to add that I don't believe in objective film criticism. I just feel like, you got to be who you're going to be in meeting something. And like, there are times, and I try to explain this in my reviews sometimes, because I'll be like, this is a great movie, and I hated it. And like, because
Same, I've been there.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just like, oh, this isn't for me, or like, I am not meeting this emotionally where it is because I'm not in that place. Like, specifically with grief stuff a lot, like I've lost some people recently, and I'm not at the place in the journey where the movie is. And I'll say, look, I respect that it did this, this, and this, and like, I at a certain point just emotionally wasn't there, and that's on me. And I think it's like not about being objective, I think it's about context. So it's like, if you're really a fan of something, I think you can say like, look, man, I've been a fan of this for a long time, and this is how that affects how I feel.
Thank you so much.
All right, I think we're going to try and get one last one, and then, yeah.
Hi, my name's Jacob. I'm an Ohio University media arts student and a big fan of your guys' content, especially Amanda. And I feel like a large part of that is, the personality and like, what sets you apart. So as someone who wants to turn my creative ventures sort of into a career, how do you tap into what sets you apart in such an oversaturated market?
Again, I really think it is just being authentic to yourself, like doing what you think is entertaining. I don't sit there. I was talking with somebody about this yesterday. It's like I had someone telling me, it's like, I was just trying to make this review funny and I couldn't think of anything. I'm like, no, that's where you're making the mistake. You should just be watching, engaging with it as it is, and like if something comes to mind, throw it in there. If nothing does, people are going to notice that you were like looking for something. So it really is just kind of finding like are you someone who's just like really like, are you good at finding like little details, or knowing like a lot of backstory about certain things, or like set design that you can make something really interesting? Do you have like just a big personality and you can put that on camera a lot so that people can like vibe with you and feel that authenticity? It's really just not looking to other people, maybe just taking inspiration from people that you're kind of into and would hope to be more like, but not trying to mimic them, and just figuring out like what works for you in that platform and like what you're passionate about. And then people will resonate with that. Like the right people will find it, is what I kind of like to say. It could take a while, but the right people will find the content and value you for you.
I have a kind of offbeat suggestion for you. Do karaoke.
Karaoke's great.
And what I mean about this is, I used to be really nervous about being on camera, because I didn't feel like I looked like a lot of the people who are online, and I felt like I was not meeting these standards. And even if nobody else said something, I felt that way. And I realized that when I do karaoke, I feel like a rock star. And why can't I feel that way when I'm just standing in front of a camera and talking about movies? Why can't that be the energy I'm channeling? And so like, genuinely, it's like, in my opinion, for me, it's about just kind of embracing that sometimes I'm gonna look ridiculous and being like, cool, tomorrow's another day. So like, I know it sounds silly, but I would really say like, karaoke's really good for my mental health and good for like my creative drive.
I agree with that.
I love that.
Where are we going this time? Like, where we karaokeing it?
For real, you wanna go to the Alamo later?
I'm like
Who's going?
Totally derailed.
I'm down.
Sharonda.
I mean, honestly, like I would say, find your favorite person that provides film criticism and be nitpicky, and like, what is that one thing that they don't do that you wish they did, and that's your thing. Like, you have to incorporate some type of you. I feel like a lot of times you can see a lot of people who sound just like this other reviewer, or they like do the exact same things because they're trying to mimic their magic or their success. But you have to just really be yourself. I know this sounds so terrible. Like,
No, I love that.
But like,
It really is.
You have to fill a void. I know there's so many outlets now, but everyone sounds the same. Not everyone, but I'm just being honest. Like, a lot of people, they sound the same, they do the same thing, they're doing the same type of formats. And you just have to really just be that different person. It's really okay to be your authentic self and to do something different. You're going to find your tribe. They exist. We all exist. Everyone has their thing that they love to do, and you're going to find your person. You're going to find the people that are going to support you.
Love that. That's going to be it for us today. I want to remind all of you there will be a mixer later today with NBCU Launch and Rotten Tomatoes. I encourage all of you to come by. And I want to thank my incredible panel, again, NBCU and NBCU Launch, for making this happen, along with the folks at Rotten Tomatoes. And although you didn't get to meet them, Sophie Marie Prime is the person that makes all of this happen. She is our critics relations manager, and yeah, they definitely made sure that everything happened today. So I want to make sure they get their thanks. Thank you all for being here.